You see it for the first time on a Saturday morning when the light hits the lower edge of your fender just right, that little blister of orange creeping out from under the paint like a stain that has been waiting to surface, and your stomach drops because you know exactly what that bubble means. The metal underneath your beautiful car is starting to rot, and every single day you ignore it, that spot is going to spread wider and deeper into the steel until it eats a hole clean through the panel. So you do what every responsible car owner does. You drive to the parts store and you drop $40 on a kit of wire brushes and grinding wheels and a respirator mask, and you spend your entire weekend hunched over that fender with an angry power tool screaming in your hands, filling your garage with a cloud of toxic orange dust that gets in your lungs and coats every tool on your bench, and your arms are shaking and your back is locked up and you have ground away half the surrounding paint trying to chase the corrosion, and then you wipe the area down and lean in close and your heart sinks because the rust is still there, still trapped down inside the microscopic pits of the steel where no wire brush on earth can reach it. Because here is the brutal truth that nobody at that parts counter is going to tell you. Surface rust does not live on top of the metal. It tunnels down into the pores, and you cannot grind your way to clean steel without grinding away the steel itself. So all that money and all that sweat and all that lung damage bought you absolutely nothing except a thinner panel and a bigger problem. And that is exactly the trap they want you stuck in. Because if grinding actually worked, you would never come back to buy their next product. Now here is where it gets infuriating. Because there is a $1 secret weapon sitting in your kitchen pantry right now that dissolves surface rust down to clean bare metal without a single second of grinding, and the giant automotive chemical companies have spent millions of dollars making sure you never find out about it because the entire premium rust remover aisle is built on a lie. Those $25 bottles of heavy-duty rust dissolver with the aggressive fonts and the warning labels and the industrial blue gel inside are charging you a fortune for a chemical reaction you can recreate for pennies. And it gets worse because the internet is now flooded with a so-called miracle hack telling you to mix vinegar with table salt for a stronger, faster result. And I need you to understand something before you ever try that. The salt trick is not a shortcut. It is sabotage. Salt is the single most destructive substance you can put on car steel. It is the exact reason vehicles in snowy road salt states rot out from the bottom up, and soaking your bare metal in salt water and then praying you rinsed every last grain out of the pits is how people turn a tiny surface spot into a rotted out panel within a month. So the real secret weapon is simpler and cleaner and safer than both of those. It is plain white vinegar all by itself. And if you want to go a step stronger, you reach for a small tub of citric acid powder from the canning aisle, and that humble bottle of acid quietly does what a $40 grinder and a $25 chemical spray both failed to do. It reaches down into the pores and lifts the corrosion right out. Before I show you the exact protocol, hit that subscribe button right now, because the massive automotive chemical brands are not your friends. They are predators in a lab coat. They take a substance that costs them almost nothing to produce. They pour it into a fancy bottle with a scary skull-free warning label. They slap a $25 price tag on it. And they market it straight at independent car owners like you who are just trying to protect a vehicle you worked hard to buy. And they are betting on your fear and your ignorance to keep the money flowing. So this channel exists to rip the label off every one of these overpriced retail traps and hand you back the real chemistry for the price of a gas station snack. Subscribe and join the rebellion, because the more of us who know the truth, the less power they have over our wallets. So let me break down the actual science of why vinegar dissolves rust when a wire brush cannot, because once you understand this, you will never look at that $25 bottle the same way again. Rust is iron oxide, which is what you get when the iron in your steel reacts with oxygen and moisture over time, and it forms a stubborn, flaky orange crust that bonds itself into the surface of the metal and burrows down into every tiny imperfection. And this is the key fact the grinding crowd misses. Rust is not a hard protective shell sitting on top. It is a loose, crumbly, porous corrosion product that has rooted itself into the steel like a weed. And that porosity is actually its weakness, because white vinegar is a mild acetic acid solution, and acetic acid loves to react with iron oxide. When the acid soaks into that porous rust, it chemically converts the solid orange iron oxide into iron acetate, which is a compound that dissolves in water. So instead of fighting the rust as a solid the way a brush does, the vinegar simply turns the rust into a liquid and lets it wash away. And because the reaction targets the oxidized iron specifically, It works through the corrosion and stops at the healthy unoxidized steel underneath, lifting the rust out of the pits that no mechanical tool could ever reach. And if you upgrade to citric acid, the same principle applies but more aggressively and far more cleanly. The citric acid binds to the iron in a process called chelation, essentially grabbing the rust molecules and pulling them into solution, which is why it works faster and leaves a cleaner surface than vinegar alone. And notice what is completely absent from this real chemistry. There is no salt, no chloride, no destructive ion left behind in your metal, just a clean acid reaction that does its job and rinses away, which is exactly why this method is safer than the salt hack that the algorithm keeps shoving in your face. Now let me tear apart what you are actually paying for when you buy one of those $25 heavy-duty rust stripping sprays, because the deception is shameless. Those industrial formulas typically lean on harsh, strong acids like phosphoric or even hydrofluoric blends in the most aggressive products. And yes, those acids will attack rust, but they are so volatile and so indiscriminate that they will happily attack everything else too. They will burn your skin on contact and leave you with chemical blisters if a drop lands on your hand, and far worse for your car. The overspray and the fumes from these strong acids will etch and dull the beautiful clear coat on the paint surrounding your rust spot, leaving permanent chalky white hazing and stains on bodywork that was perfectly healthy before you started. So you spray this expensive poison to clean one small patch of corrosion, and you walk away having permanently scarred the paint around it, which means now you need their polishing compound and their clear coat repair kit too. Do you see the genius of the scam? The product is designed to create the next problem you have to pay them to solve. You are not buying a rust remover, you are buying an entry ticket into an endless cycle of damage and repair that keeps you broke and keeps them rich. And the truly insulting part is that the active reaction doing the rust removal in those bottles is fundamentally the same kind of acid chemistry happening in a $1 jug of vinegar. You are paying $25 for packaging, marketing, and a far more dangerous concentration that punishes your paint for the privilege. So here's the exact protocol. Follow it precisely. Take 1 cup of plain white vinegar and pour it into a small container. And if you are using the citric acid upgrade instead, dissolve 2 tablespoons of citric acid powder into 1 cup of warm water until it is fully mixed. Then take a clean cloth or a folded paper towel and saturate it completely in the acid solution until it is dripping wet. Lay that soaked rag directly over the rusted area and press it down so the wet fabric is in full contact with every part of the corrosion. And for a stubborn spot, you can lay a strip of plastic wrap over the top to stop it drying out, then walk away and let the chemistry work. For light surface rust, give it 15 to 30 minutes, and for heavier spots, you can let it sit for a few hours, or even soak smaller removable parts in a tub of the solution overnight. Then peel the rag away, and you will see the rust has gone dark and soft and turned into a black sludge. Wipe that melted corrosion away with a clean cloth, and watch clean gray metal appear underneath. And for any tougher residue, a light pass with a scour pad now glides through it effortlessly because the acid already did the hard work of breaking the bond. And here's the critical warning, the one that separates people who save their panels from people who destroy them. The moment you have wiped away the rust, you have exposed fresh, bare, reactive steel, and bare steel that has just been soaked in acid will begin to flash rust within hours if you walk away and leave it. So you must immediately neutralize the surface, mix a heavy spoonful of baking soda into fresh water, and wash the entire area thoroughly to stop the acid reaction dead. Then, and this is the part nobody emphasizes enough, you must dry that metal completely with a clean towel and then a hairdryer or heat gun until there is not a trace of moisture left. And then you must protect it right away with a coat of primer, a rust converter, or at the very least an oil or wax barrier, because clean bare steel exposed to open air is the single most rust-prone surface that exists. Leaving it raw overnight will undo everything you just accomplished. And let me hammer this home one final time. Do not let anyone talk you into throwing salt into your solution to speed it up, because the chloride in salt does not rinse cleanly out of porous metal. It lodges itself down inside the fresh pits and triggers a hyper-aggressive corrosion reaction that will rot that panel out faster than it ever rusted in the first place. The vinegar lifts the rust, the baking soda kills the acid, the heat dries the metal, the primer seals it. That is the entire safe cycle, and there is no salt anywhere in it. And one more piece of honesty that those slick chemical brands will never give you, this method dissolves surface rust and light to moderate corrosion brilliantly, but it cannot bring back metal that is already gone. If your steel has pitted all the way through or the rust has eaten a hole in the panel, no acid and no spray on earth will regrow that metal. That is a job for welding or filler. And anyone selling you a bottle that promises to reverse rot through metal is lying to your face. So use this for what it actually does, catching and killing surface rust before it becomes structural, and you will save panels that would have been written off. So look at the real choice in front of you. On one side, the $25 industrial chemical spray that burns your skin, hazes your clear coat with permanent white stains, and locks you into buying their repair products to fix the damage it caused. And on the other side, a $1 jug of white vinegar from the kitchen pantry that lifts deep surface rust right out of the metal pores, cleanly and safely for literal pennies. The same acid chemistry the expensive bottle is hiding behind a scary label, available to you for the cost of nothing. And the corporations have spent a fortune making sure you never made that comparison for yourself. So now that you know the truth, do something with it. Share this video immediately with that friend who has a rusty project car sitting in the driveway or a daily driver with bubbling fenders. Because they are about to waste a weekend and $100 grinding away at metal they could dissolve for $1, send it to them right now and save their body panels and their bank account this weekend. And if this opened your eyes, subscribe and stick around, because every single week we tear the price tag off another overpriced garage scam and hand you back the real chemistry. The rebellion runs on knowledge, and now you have